When Jesus said that we're to love our neighbor, what does that actually look like in practical terms in the 21st century? Does it just mean we unlock the house, open the checkbook, and give everything away? What does it mean from a political and voting standpoint to love our neighbor? We're going to talk about that and more on this edition of the show. What does charity and generosity and benevolence actually look like in biblical terms? Hi, Alex McFarland. Welcome to the program. We've got a great show. We're going to have some more time visiting with Joe from Texas. He's on tour with Tucker Carlson right now, saying some things that I think America needs to hear. Do you know what? As a Christian, I'm a Christian. I believe Jesus is the Son of God. And as a Christian, I believe in Jesus, and millions across the Western Hemisphere and throughout the world do. But we're nearing an election. And, I think both sides would agree it's right to help those that need help. But when it comes down to what is sustainable, what is actually responsible, what is biblical, there's a lot of disagreement. There's a group right now that's spending millions of dollars on ads to basically say, if you don't believe in the welfare state, you're not being Christian, you're not being biblical, you're not being evangelical. So let's talk about that, because indeed in Matthew 5:43, Jesus said that we're to love our neighbor, right? And then let's even go back. Matthew 5:42 says, give to him who asks you, and from him that would borrow from you, do not turn him away. Now, if we only had those verses, we might be prompted to think, we need to have generosity, no questions asked. But the very same Bible that says love your neighbor and help the poor, it also says that if a man will not work, neither shall he eat. The Bible also says in John 8:32, the truth will set you free. So let's talk about the truth. Right now, as we film this, there are 100 million Americans, 1/3 of the country, struggling to put food on the table, struggling to pay the power bill. Now, what would be better? Because I'm going to tell you something that I think you can do that will not cost you any money. On the one hand, the left says loving your neighbor means giving away money, and your earnings should be confiscated and redistributed. 100 million Americans struggling. I would submit to you the more loving thing, the more long-term solution, the thing that is sustainable, is not to hand out money, no questions asked, but to vote responsibly. Because look, folks, when the economy is strong and wealth is being created, it's better for everyone. More people have been lifted out of poverty and their feet set on solid economic ground by capitalism than socialism. In my book, The Assault on America, How to Defend Our Nation Before It's Too Late, I document that socialism has been tried 80 times in America. It was tried 80 times by 1900, and 80 times it was abandoned. Right now, and I would beg of you, do not be misled, there are people spending money and insinuating that if you believe in responsible government, if you stand against the welfare state, and if you believe it's better to give people jobs than handouts, then you're not being Christian. I vehemently disagree. Now, we're going to talk more about this, but right now we're going to have some more time conversing with Joe from Texas. He's a businessman who 60 years ago, he took $2,750 and with his own money, put his own capital at risk and started a business that has existed for decades, employed hundreds of people. He's on the road talking about what we can do to help restore our country. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about God and country after this.
This is John. He's 21. He's never met Jesus. It's possible he never will. He never went to church. His mom doesn't trust them. How do you change his future? So let's find his public school and establish a Bible club down the hall. There, someone introduces him to Jesus, who takes his life in a new direction. John's so excited, he tells his friends. One of them comes to Christ, and it all began in a public school Good News Club.
Welcome back to the program. Alex McFarland here. And by the way, you can learn about all that we're doing, especially our youth camps and our speaking tour at my own website, which is alexmcfarland.com. Also, our voter's guide, alexmcfarland.com/vote, with principles on how to vote wisely and vote godly. I want to cue this up by telling you all, I do a lot of traveling. The Lord has allowed me to travel to this great country, all 50 states. The lower 48, I've been to many, many times over. But folks, you've heard me say it many times, there's something really special about Texas. And I've met so many people in Texas that love this nation, and there's just something about Texans. There's just this can-do spirit, this good wisdom and common sense. And whenever I meet Texans that are being used to make a wonderful difference, it's just a beautiful thing. And let's just be honest, I think the other 49 states are, at least to a degree, envious of what it would be to be a Texan. Well, we've got a Texan with us right now. It's Joe from Texas, and you might have seen Joe from Texas in the news. He's touring with Tucker Carlson. They're speaking before tens of thousands of people all over the nation, and we feel very privileged to have a conversation with Joe from Texas. His website is joefromtexas.com. Sir, welcome back, and thank you for making time to converse with us a little bit today.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure, very much.
You know, all over the country as I travel, people say, oh, if things get much worse, I'm going to move to Texas. I do think a lot of Americans kind of view Texas as our last best hope. Do you hear that sentiment?
Well, we're the Lone Star State, and I think that resonates with people, because when you think of the flag and you think of the stars and the stripes and so forth, this is a great state. It's just part of a great country. We're a little bit off course right now. We can get it back. There's, all we have to do is just win the White House back. We'll get this country back on pace. And Texas is a great place to lead from.
Yeah. I worry, though, with all these people that are wanting to move to Texas, I don't want Texas to lose its identity. Is there any danger of that?
Yeah, I believe there is, and that's why, that's another reason why we're kind of embarked on this mission ourselves. We're from Texas, and that's why it's Joe from Texas. But we tell America just straight out where we are. Where's the dollars and cents? Where are we at? We have the former Comptroller General of the United States doing our math and helping us audit the contract from the American people. We're just bringing the facts out, and we're doing it from this platform, Joe from Texas. But, yes, there's a lot of people moving from Florida, from California to here. They're moving to Florida from California. They're going all over the United States right now, but a lot of people are coming to Texas. And, Texas needs to stay red. It needs to stay a Republican. It needs to stay one of the leaders in this nation, obviously. And I think that the more we get out there and talk about what we have, that we can convert those people. Those are still godly people. Just because they came from one state to another, they're still godly people. And when people hear common sense and they look at it and they see that it's been vetted out, they can check us. There's no problem with the fact checking what we say. We're not asking for their vote. We're not asking for a contribution. All we're doing is wanting to have the opportunity to talk to them and share what we found. And I think that's what's rewarding for us and what's refreshing to the people coming into Texas.
I want to talk a little bit about our economy long term and specifically Social Security. I've interviewed a number of experts. In fact, I interviewed a sheriff from Ohio today who the illegal crisis is just beyond anything anybody could imagine. At least 9 to 10 million, some say 12 to 20 million. And one of the things that experts I've interviewed have remarked how very often they're working for cash, if they do work at all, not paying into Social Security, not paying taxes, and yet they're getting government services. So let's talk about the welfare of tax-paying American citizens, many of whom are now older. They've paid in for decades, and yet Social Security might not be there for them. How important is it to justly and responsibly address the future of Social Security?
Well, I think it's paramount that we make sure that Social Security does not run out. You know, in 1981, Social Security could not pay the monthly payments. They came to Ronald Reagan with that about 3 or 4 months into his presidency and said, "Mr. President, we don't have enough money to send the next check out." So they borrowed money out of the other trust funds, and he put a commission together with 15 people, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and 5 from the business sector. Alan Greenspan headed that commission up. He was not our Fed chairman at the time. That took them about 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years. They came back with a program, submitted it to the president. He submitted it to Congress, bipartisan support, and they put a 50-year fix on a program that was broke. Now that runs out in 33. So this thing's 9 years that it's fixing to run out. And when it does, then what does that mean? Does that mean nobody gets a check? No, everybody will still get a check that's on Social Security. It'll just be 70 to 75 cents of what it is today. And there's where we are. Every month when we send out Social Security checks, we don't take in enough to make that payment. We borrow out of the trust fund now, which now we have a surplus because what President Reagan and that commission did, but it will be exhausted in 9 years. So what that means, every month when we need money, we cash in an IOU that's in the Social Security trust fund right now, and we sell that on the open market in the bonds, whether it's foreign people buy it or domestic buy it. We put that money with what came in and we send out those checks. That's going to be exhausted. When that happens, we'll have about 75 million people on Social Security. And when we cut them 20 or 25%, we'll double the poverty rate overnight in this country with elderly people. Now that's unacceptable to me. I was in 1957, my father had a stroke. We were on Social Security till we got out of school. He passed away. So we drew that, and that helped feed us. There's no two ways about it. My mama took in laundry and ironing for the neighbors because she had to take care of Dad after a stroke, and we walked everywhere we went, but we made it by the grace of God. The churches helped us. You know, the man at the local grocery helped us and so forth. But if we put 80 million people into poverty overnight, our elderly people who paid it in, that's a worse sin that this country could never do anything any worse than that to the elderly people. And we have to stop that. But we can reform it. There's no two ways about it. We use that same blueprint that Reagan used and do it again. There's just some things we have to do a little different. And when you have a pain or a disease, you have to take medicine or maybe even surgery. We've got to fix this, and we can get through it together, but we've got to have Congress and administration that says this is a problem and we're going to fix it.
Indeed, indeed. And, you know, this thing is just not sustainable, this thing of borrowing and taking from one fund. When this nation, my goodness, there's never been a nation in history that has the capacity to create wealth like America has created wealth and brought prosperity to so many people. But this thing of just kicking the can down the road and borrowing from ourselves, that's not sustainable, is it?
No, it's not. And even worse than that, you know, even worse than borrowing from yourself is borrowing from your enemies. When you borrow money from China, and China's aligning themselves with Russia and Iran, you know, always keep this in mind, Alex, that a world led by a strong America is going to be a lot safer than a world led by China or Russia. We have to keep our bills paid. We have to get this economy turned around. We need to quit wasting money and giving money away that we don't have. And we need to quit buying votes with taxpayer money. Earn it, get on the stump, tell them what you're going to do, make sure that you're going to do it. And if you're not, we're going to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm. You know, Donald Trump, I well remember back in 2015 when Donald Trump announced that he was going to run for president. And a lot of my conservative friends back then, because I was traveling, Joe, and everywhere I went, average people, they were saying, I like that Donald Trump. He makes sense. Now, some of my friends in politics and academia, they kind of poo-pooed Donald Trump, and they thought, well, he's just a TV star. But he's a businessman, and that's what we need. And the beautiful thing about Trump is, look, 4 years, the economy was great. Gasoline was under $2. The border was secure. There was peace in the Middle East. I mean, I think it was just miraculous what he did in 4 years. We know what we would get, and we need that again. What do you say to the people, though, that think what we need are politicians? I don't think we need politicians. I think we need people with business sense, and certainly nobody in our lifetime has personified that like Donald Trump has.
Well, absolutely, Alex. You look at it, America is a big business. It's the biggest business in the world.
Yes.
You need a great business mind to head this country up. Now, that person can have all kinds of committees and people answering to him. There's no doubt he can't touch everything. But you made a good point a while ago. The world was a safer place then. Whether they feared him, respected him, or a little bit of both, it didn't matter. We had peace around the world. The world right now is a powder keg. World War III is staring us all in the face. We need somebody strong to get back in there and take back the reins, because that's what it is. The coach is running right now without the horse is unbridled, just running unwild. We have to get the bridle back on, back up just a little bit, slow things down, change our course. We can do this. This is not something that God has put out there that we can't obtain. We can. If we stay focused, if we get the right leader and we follow that leader, knowing that everybody's not going to be happy with every move. But if we come out on top, this country gets back to where we know we can pay our bills and take care of the American people first, then I think they'll be happy they elected him. And then JD will go in there for 8 years right after that. And that Jody Arrington's 10-year plan can be put to bed.
Of the people that you meet with and talk with, Joe, how confident are you and your colleagues, how confident are you that we will have an honestly tabulated election? So that's the thing. I'm not worried that Trump doesn't have the votes. I think he's got the votes 10 times over. I do. What concerns me, Joe, is, though, election fraud. Could you speak to that?
Well, what I could say to this is when I talk to people, especially on this tour, and even when we talk to them privately besides that, people know, we're aware of what went on. We're going to be more vigilant this time. I know Trump and his team are watching that a lot closer. The Republicans are watching that a lot closer. I don't know what safeguards they put in, but our antenna is up now. We're not going to sit there and just take it just happenstance that it's going to be a legal election. We know it's not. And I said last night, I said, we need to stack the votes so tall, so long, and so wide that they can't get around it. That's what we need to do. We need to have an overwhelming amount of votes that they can't cheat us. I'm not going to say they won't cheat a little bit, but we need 125 million votes on our side. We need to stack them up this time. We need to show America that we're serious about taking it back. We need to show that other party that we're serious about taking it back. And if you get far enough ahead in a football game and the other one has a good final quarter, you still won. We need to get far ahead in this.
Well, I appreciate you. I really do. And I want to say to everyone watching, look, folks, if you've followed me at all, you know I've pastored 2 churches. I've spoken in 2000. Part of the way I've paid the bills is teaching adjunct faculty at Liberty and other universities. But I want to call on my pastor friends. I'm calling out clergy for Trump. Look, there's so many issues, the issue of life, the issue of our relationship with the nation of Israel, the issue of just care for the taxpaying citizens of America. But I want to appeal to my fellow pastors as religious freedom, freedom of speech. And so pastors, get in the game. Don't play it safe and just be silent. This is a time to tell your parishioners and your members, get out there, vote, pray, fast and pray, be registered, influence, because so much hangs in the balance. And I'll say this, and Joe, I want you to have the last word, but all of my pastor friends, that many of them, they want to be quiet and not sully themselves with politics. Everything in life is stewardship. And I think all of us as citizens, and certainly the ministers, we will face God one day and we'll give an account for what we did at a time of great national crisis. This is that moment, and it is time, folks, to take a stand. Joe, I want to give you the last word. I want to say how much I appreciate you. I just wish maybe we could clone you. We need 1 million of you, Joe from Texas. But a final challenge and call to action.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. But I don't look at this as a political problem. This is an American problem. It doesn't matter if they're black, white, male, female, it doesn't matter. What we have to do, Democrat or Republican, we need to draw the line and say we're going to take America back. Because if we don't, we're all going to go down together. And that's so sad for a great country. God made the world, but he made a real special place called United States of America. And we need to leave it like we found it.
JoeFromTexas.com, a hearty amen, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, and God bless. Thank you, Alex.
God bless you. Folks, stay tuned. We're back after this.
Wow, I cannot say enough about the Kairos experience. This is the best decision of my life.
God is calling you here. He's going to help you. He's going to lead you in the right direction. You'll see the heart of Andrew. You'll see the heart of all the instructors. And the Lord will speak to you if you come.
If you are desiring to come to Bible college, then you have a word from the Lord.
God has something for you. Here, come.
You know, throughout the years, people have used the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5 through 7, and isolated that to give you kind of a warm, fuzzy view that maybe Jesus just says, love your neighbor. But the Bible is very clear that God is a God of holiness and truth. And God says that we are accountable for our behaviors. There's an objective moral code that we are not to violate. And so I want to thank Joe from Texas for talking to us about the importance of restoring our nation, because look, the most responsible thing and the more loving thing, the truly loving thing, if we're going to rise to the challenge of Jesus' words and love our neighbor, it's not just to create this hedonistic, relativistic, immoral police state of communism. No, but to restore our nation by standing for truth. And folks, I want to say there's nothing Christian about electing leaders that advocate for things that are unspeakably evil, things the Bible is clearly condemning. And so we've got to vote, and voting is a stewardship, and we are to not only vote, but vote righteously. I want to say, to betray Israel, to advocate for the killing of the unborn, for immorality, transgenderism, homosexuality. There's nothing Christian about that. So please don't be misled or guilt-tripped into voting for things that the Bible is clearly condemning of. So what do we do? How do we vote morally? You know, I think about what George Washington said, that to the equally esteemed name of patriot, we should add the even more esteemed title of Christian. What is Christianity? One who follows Jesus Christ. It's belief that he is not only the Son of God who rose from the dead, but the one and only means of salvation. To take Christ at his word, that the scripture cannot be broken. That's John 10:35. And let me just say this regarding the alleged evangelicals that are voting for the Democrat platform. Look, Christ said he was the one and only way to heaven. Christ said that the Bible is the infallible, unbreakable Word of God. Anybody that essentially says the Son of God is mistaken, I wouldn't trust them for anything. Anybody who basically says it's right to kill the unborn, I wouldn't trust them on any point. Folks, be bold. This is no time to be wavering. We've got to stand for God and country and truth. And I think you'll know how to vote in that regard.
I just returned from a conference at the Cove, and it was absolutely breathtaking in every way. The mountain views, the tranquil areas within the woods, and just being alone with God. Mornings spent watching the sunrise from a rocking chair with coffee in one hand and my Bible in the other. Evenings spent reflecting on the incredible spiritual teaching. It's the embodiment of peacefulness. Come and experience the Cove for yourself.
What does your financial support for Alex McFarland Ministries do? A lot. Hi, I want to challenge all of you that are watching this show to become a monthly financial partner with us, because your support in any amount, it's enabling us to be on the radio live 5 days a week. We're on more than 200 stations every Saturday and Sunday. So 7 days a week, we're on radio, either pre-record or live. And we're talking to millions of people. We're on television, like this show that you're watching just now. Do you know we've got a brand new event preparation manual? We do events almost every weekend. We're in a city somewhere in America, and we organize prayer rallies. We organize people to pray and promote our events. And whether it's in a church or a coliseum, I give God the glory that we're able to preach the gospel to millions of people, thousands of people in person, millions by digital content, radio, television, and we are calling people of all ages, teenagers, grown-ups, back to Christ, advocating for God and country. So would you make a financial contribution today? You know, you can give securely online at alexmcfarland.com. There's a donate button. Or if you would mail in a contribution, your donation in any amount is being used in very fruitful, frankly, innovative ways. You can mail a check to P.O. Box 10231, Greensboro, North Carolina, 27404. And I would ask you to please pray, please give as generously as you can.